Spoiler warning. The following discussion will contain spoilers. We recommend checking out the movie first, then coming back to hang with us. But if you don't care about that, glad to have you here.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Real Review. My name is Kevin.
And I'm John.
And we are The Real Movie Guys. On today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at Varsity Blues as our real sports series continues, where we take a look at some of your favorite sports movies you may or may not have seen. Varsity Blues is about a backup quarterback who is chosen to lead a Texas football team to victory after the star quarterback is injured.
Let's go, Mox.
Let's go. So, John, what would
So,
I tell you if I said we're going to watch a movie made by MTV in the late 90s, early 2000s era? It's, again, made by MTV, and it's a comedy. Is this what you would have expected?
no.
No?
I would have thought it'd be like one of those old MTV movie videos. They
used to
show a whole
the
bunch of
movie videos back in the day?
Yeah. They used to show them on TV, and you'd have a countdown.
Let's get this out of the way, right? So, first impressions. This movie is very late 90s, early 2000s, right off the bat. There's a little movie I like to call American Pie. Not another teen movie. These movies were things for you children out there that were very popular. So this movie tries to do that. It can't, but that might not be the worst thing in the world. So, John, what are your early thoughts? Like, before we even discuss anything, what are some, like, your early reactions on this movie?
It's got a very Texas vibe to it,
Okay.
I would say.
So, let's go into positives then. If that's what we're going to start with, all right? So, right off the bat, it does a great job of depicting small-town football, I would say, right? So, this whole movie, it takes place in small-town Texas. Football is life. Now, some of you may be saying, well, that's kind of unrealistic. Again, we're not from Texas, we're from New Jersey, so it's not that huge thing to us. But, you know, there are towns like this, probably especially in Texas, where football is worshipped, okay?
But
the quarterback is worshipped like they are in this movie.
Like, they also have, like, TV shows, though, where it shows how big Texas football is. Like, they've even had where they'll have on ESPN,
Right.
Texas high school football, and it's just such a huge thing that the town closes and everybody's all into that, and it's very interesting.
Right. And like I said, this movie captures that almost cult-like mentality extremely well.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say what you want about it, but I think it just, like I said, overall, like the people like making deals, making back shop deals, and making sure this player is going to play right, or giving the local the quarterback's treated as God, essentially. The quarterback is God of this town.
He gets free booze.
Yeah, James Beek, he's worshipped when he becomes the new quarterback after Paul Walker has to relinquish the title after injury. It's crazy to see, and again, it seems unrealistic, but essentially that's what he is. He's worshipped as a small god.
Well, it's also funny too. You can see like through the portrayal of like the cheerleader too, how she really just was with him for like just because he was a star quarterback. It wasn't for any other reason. It was just like, hey, I want to be that popular.
Yeah. So let's go into some of the actors. So this actor at this time, these are like the hot up and coming actors, right? These are the faces of 1999, 2000. These are the kids you're looking for. James Peek, Mr. Dawson's Creek, right off the bat. You got Paul Walker, who, hit and miss a lot of his stuff, but Fast and the Furious fame, and, rest in peace. He was a great actor. He still is. I really do like Paul Walker a lot. Again, you have a lot of people where you have Ron Lester, who plays Billy Bob, Scott Caan, plays Tweeter, Amy Smart, who plays Julia. I mean, you have a lot of people that are just, these are like the hot actors at the time. And not even that, you get a very seasoned veteran when you get Jon Voight, who plays Coach Kilmer. Does a great job. He's a great villain in this movie. Very one note, but does his job right. He plays the guy take it to win it mentality coach that you'd want as a villain. which is something I really want to talk about with this movie. So again, overall the actors are fine. I do have one small issue which we'll come back to later, but this movie does something different in a way. I want to say, right? Usually we see it's the team versus the team. You see it's the team versus the other team, or whatever they have to overcome. I feel like very rarely do you see the players versus the coach. Or essentially the players versus the football in general, right? The main conflict is really these high school kids putting in these like crazy over, like their expectations are crazy put on these poor kids. And this movie really does a good job dealing with that. And that was a surprise to me, especially when I heard this is an MTV, youth of the generation kind of movie. This movie did a really good job portraying that, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like this movie also has a way of showing like how much pressure is under some of these kids that play football too
Right.
to compete at like the
Especially the high
highest
school
part.
scene, right? You're fighting to get into colleges at this point.
Well, yeah, you want colleges to look at you,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the thing too. Like it shows you what some of these kids will go through
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure that they can play college football because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them won't get scholarships based on academics, but if they can get through being playing sports, it's good. So they'll even take some shortcuts and ways to get them to be able to get noticed.
Yeah, well, I mean, examples Paul Walker, right? Paul Walker plays Lance Harbor, the original main quarterback of the movie. He's off in the back getting injections in his knee until he finally gets injured to the point where his knee's torn to shreds. He can't play anymore. They said it
No,
may heal, and he'll have to have several surgeries. His career's done, right?
well,
It's
yeah,
over.
even the doctor was like, "There's no way that he should have been playing with
No,
these injuries anyway." And he kind of looked at the coach and going, "Somebody had to know that this was going
yeah,
on
and that's
to
an
be like,
interesting
hey,
take where we don't see the coach demonized often in movies. Usually the coach is that symbol that rallies everyone together, that gets the team hyped up and gets them ready to go. But this movie takes, I think, a brave approach in that respect, to where it's putting the future of these kids, they're putting it in their hands. They're telling their stories. Also, suicides addressed in this movie. Billy Bob is, the um, fat defense guy, and he's made fun of throughout the whole movie.
offense."
Offense, sorry, defense, offense.
It's
You
okay.
know what I meant. You know what I meant. Anyway, so he's put in all these horrible. He's verbally abused. He's made out as the joke. Everyone likes him, and he is a likable guy. You feel bad for him. He gets a concussion early on. Coach is telling him, "You got to keep playing. What the hell are you doing? Just stop it. I knew you were lazy. I knew you were fat, and I knew you were stupid, but I didn't think you were lazy." Something like that's
Well,
terrible.
there's the one scene too, like when he gets his concussion,
Hmm.
they're showing him like the fingers,
Yeah.
and they go, "No, no, no, you can't show him. He don't know the finger. He doesn't know how
Hmm.
to count anyway.
Right.
So you gotta say it's true or false."
And not even that. I think like when he's in the classroom and he's showing signs of the concussion setting in, he just passes out. The movie got like
Yeah.
really real, right? Because you're thinking when you're watching this movie, you're thinking it's going to be a comedy, and it has those things in it, but this is more of a drama, I would argue, more than a comedy. And
Well, even before that, he goes to the bathroom to throw up, and then
yeah,
comes back looking like he just went through a war.
yeah, and
And
then
they're just like, "Okay, let's carry around with class."
yeah, but even later on, you get the most. It's not. I don't want to say it is a beautiful scene in a way where Billy Bob is going to kill himself. Right, he has a pet pig. He gives it to James Vanderbeek, and then James Vanderbeek chases after. Goes to find him, and he's going to kill himself.
Yeah.
Billy Bob, and he just says like, "I can't do it. I have nothing." James
Well,
Vanderbeek plays the cliche character, like he's smarter than everybody else, which we saw so much in the '90s and the 2000s. I'm smarter than everyone. I'm better than everybody else. But to some of these people, all they have is football. That's
it's
what they're
also
defined by, and it's sad to see like Billy Bob is going to take his life because he has nothing else. If he can't be good at football and what the one thing he has to do, protect the quarterback, he doesn't want to live.
it's also interesting to see like all the people that they tell you to like look up to
Hmm.
in this movie, like the coach,
Right.
he's a terrible person.
Hmm.
Then you have the teacher, and she's like stripping on the
Right.
weekends.
The
And I
parents.
see
Right.
the parents are all about 100%. It's all about football.
Hmm.
So they don't really have anybody to like look up to in this movie.
No.
So it's like a very interesting way of light to show like what some people actually have to go through.
Yeah, and
It's interesting that it's an MTV
yeah,
movie.
and I like how you brought that. This is very much, like I said, it portrays most of the adult characters as villains in a way. Not villains, or just not good people. And it's about the youth of a generation, about overcoming these things. Racism's brought up. The one wide receiver, he talks about how he never gets passes, or he gets limited in his gameplay and stuff like that. Even though he's probably one of the best, if not the best player on the team, arguably. And it's just because the coach
Yeah.
is a little racist, and it comes up, and it's a pretty like James Vanderbeek's like, no, it can't be, and he's like, yes, it is. Are you blind to it, or are you just like joining in? And it's
Yeah.
like a revelation. It's like, you're right. You know what? I'm sorry. I've been overlooking it, and I'm guilty of that. And
Yeah.
just in general, the local pressure is so well portrayed in this movie. From everywhere you walk, it's about the football team. There's blue banners everywhere. There's signs everywhere. It's just crazy, and I think, like I said, it just shows such a pressure on a young generation that I think it's a fresh angle. Again, not wholly original, right? I mean, the story's not really that original, but the angle itself is so fresh that I really enjoy it for that. Especially, we get to our end of our movie, and we're getting that the inspirational speech is coming from the quarterback, not the coach. There
Yeah.
is no coach. The coach is gone. He's giving
Coach
the
left.
speech. He's leading it outside. And also, John Voight is a great actor, and I think he's a little one dimensional for my liking, but he's still good. He has a reflective scene at the end of the movie where he looks at the Coach of the Year statue and he sees his reflection, and it's like staring back at him like, hey, what are you doing, you worthless piece of crap? So it ties that together very nicely. But like I said, this is very much about the teens, and I think it does an excellent job with that.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, the characters are one dimensional to an extent. You have the guy who drinks too much, parties too much. You have a slutty cheerleader who just wants to hook up with whoever the most popular guy is because of expectation. But all the characters felt real to an extent, and I think the performances definitely show that. I just thought the characters felt very relatable, like real people. I mean,
Yeah.
they're a little old for high school kids. They're probably their early mid-20s, so
Yeah,
they do feel a
probably.
little bit older, but it is what it is. I can look past that. The soundtrack in this movie is fan freaking tastic. Maybe I'm biased. This is my generation of music. You got your Green Day, you got your Foo Fighters, you got your Offspring. You got all those bands that I absolutely adore. I mean, I would hope, right? This movie's made by MTV. God, I hope they had a good soundtrack to go with it, and did not disappoint. Especially there's a song when they play Foo Fighters' "Hero" with Billy Bob. And
Oh
they
yeah.
passing the ball, he's just going through, like, wow, adrenaline's pumping up. It was a good job. It was really good.
Oh, Billy Bob.
Also, the football action. Once again, football action impresses in this movie. It felt like watching high school football. I felt like we were back in the bleachers, back in our old high school days, just watching a game. It feels like that. It's filmed very naturally. Nothing's too over the top. Nothing too extravagant. It feels like a small town football game, but the stakes are so high that the intensity still comes through the camera with the action. I could see everything. Everything was in focus. I knew what was going on. Not too much you could really ask for. I think that was really well done as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So
Well, let's get to the negatives.
the negatives. So teen movie antics. All right. All the compliments I gave this movie has one detrimental flaw, is it's trying to be the raunchy teen comedy on top of everything. So if I told you about this movie, a lot of people probably haven't heard about this movie. It's not like super crazy popular. It's well known for one reason. It's well known for the whipped cream bikini scene, which I don't know if I can show. Maybe we'll see what happens. That's what this movie's known for. The cheerleader tries to flirt with James Vanderbeek. She tries to seduce him in a whipped cream bikini. That's all this movie's known for. Nothing else about this movie I've ever heard talked about in casual conversation. It tries to just do this like raunchy comedy thing, which I love American Pie. I really do. That's like one of my favorite comedies. It's up there. I think that's a great movie. Even some of the sequels I honestly enjoy. This movie, that wasn't the way to go. They had enough. Being just a drama and having a little bit of light comedy would have been fine. They didn't need to go that like party on dude mentality, and with the raunch and like just boobs flying everywhere. For it's kind of weird because like when you have it in like American Pie, it's funny, right? It's sometimes it can be awkward, but it's funny. And this movie, whenever like something like that happened, there was like weird nudity or something like that. I just felt like It was awkward when it happened, and it was awkward afterwards. Everyone was super uncomfortable. It's hard to explain. It's just very uncomfortable. I think I felt like the actors were even uncomfortable at times with it. It just didn't match the tone. The tone was just too all over the place. At times, it felt like two different movies, an identity crisis. I would argue.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Um, yeah. As far as that, that's really all I would complain. I just feel like it feels like it's two different movies at times. James Van Der Beek, while I think he's a solid actor, he does not have a good accent, a Texas accent. I think he forgot to do it a couple times, or I think he just didn't know, so he just said, whatever, I'm just going to start talking normal. It was a bad accent to begin with, and I think he just realized that and just sometimes just didn't do it, because who cares? I care. That stuff always bothers me in movies. Never really a fan about that. Also, his wooden voiceover, when we talked about Field of Dreams, I didn't like it in that movie. It was like the same thing over again. I was having like Field of Dreams flashbacks when they're having that awkward voiceover at the beginning and end of the movie. Just don't do that. Don't do that. If you're not gonna put any passion to it, don't read it. It sounds stupid. Really annoying. And like I said, overall, just some tired cliches. I think there's a lot of cliches in this movie. Probably not going to surprise you for the most part. I'll take some twists and turns, but overall, you've seen this story before. John, where are you on some negatives? What do you have to say?
I actually agree with all the negatives you said.
Really? You got nothing to add? Give me something. Or talk about one of them. Give me something.
I think it was also weird though too, like they had the scene where he stole the cop car,
Okay.
but they never went into it any further than that.
Right.
It was kind of just
It
like
happened.
almost it was thrown in there like, oh,
Thank
this
you.
just happens.
So there you go. You
know?
just supplemented my example perfectly. It was just a reason to show naked girls in a cop car for whatever reason, and to have him naked.
Yeah.
Who was that? That was Tweeter. Funny name now
Tweeter.
when you think about it, but but still overall,
Tweeter.
like, just very random. Like I said, and it's a lot of that in this movie. It's just like it's trying to be like, I mean, they're all football players. They're gonna get laid. They don't have that automatic like in American Pie. It's like they're all nerdy guys who can't get laid, and they have to overcome like these different courses. What is this? This movie tried to be like that, but they're all football players. They can have whatever they want. Like that's come on. We don't need that plot. It's stupid.
Like if they wanted to show nudity or boobs, they could have just done it at that party. They didn't have to have that scene.
Or you know what? Just make it a raunchy comedy then. Forget the
Yeah.
Don't be a serious movie with some great storylines in it, and then have that. It just doesn't make sense. They don't mesh together. It's very very strange.
Very weird.
Yeah, but again, I think the merits are strong enough, to where this movie is still a decent watch. I think it's still a fun time overall. But I want to get to that point where we're going to give our final scores, everyone's favorite part of the review. I'm going to give my final score for Varsity Blues. I'm going to give it a B. Varsity Blues, it's enjoyable. I think I had a better time than I thought with it. I thought the actors were fine. It was a nice nostalgia throwback. It's innocent enough. It's nothing super offensive. It's probably one of those, you'll go and forget it. You'll have a good time, I think, especially, guys our age, women our age. They're going to enjoy it more than, the younger folks or even the older folks at that point. I don't think they're watching it. But again, a good time because some good, solid football action, some interesting takes on, teenage angst. Which MTV was known for, catering to that generation. They didn't disappoint as far as that. I think it's very well executed with that. It's just don't try to be American Pie when you're telling me, remember the Titan story. I don't want those two mixing. John, where do you stand on this movie?
I also go with this movie as a B. Felt like it was just a B movie. I thought it had good things, had some bad things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking too. Also, when I first saw that it was an MTV film, I was like, "What is this gonna be like?
I know, like,
terrible, like the worst
it's
thing."
like someone slid like a spoon down my throat and started gagging me a little bit. I was really
right. It was almost
what
one
have
of
I
those.
gotten into?
It was one of those movies that you would think that would like come out on TV, and you're just like, "Oh, one of those movies."
Yeah.
But it was a decent movie. I felt.
Yeah, I mean, if this is on TV, I'd say check it out. It probably still airs on MTV to an extent. I'm sure it's been on there occasionally.
Wait, MTV still has shows?
Oh boy, that's a tired joke. But no, like I said, I think it's a good movie. It's a good time. I promise we don't do our scores before this. We're both like thoroughly surprised with each other's scores. We're just happening to agree a lot. You know, it's because we're good friends. It's what happens. You know, sometimes you just agree to agree. You know, but
Yeah, and sometimes we really disagree.
yeah, sometimes we do. I'm sure we've got some of those coming. So, with that being said, John, where can the people find us at home?
You can find us on YouTube at TheReelMovieGuys. Like our channel, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can also find us on Twitter at TheReelMovieGuy. Hit us up, let us know your opinions, maybe some things that you want to see in the future. And you can also find us on many podcast platforms such as...
Yes, for your listening pleasure, we are also available in podcast form at iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, Overcast, Breaker, Radio Public, and Pocket Cast. Be sure to give us a listen at any of those fine platforms. If you already are, hey, we greatly appreciate it. Just search Real Movie Guys. We'll pop right up. I'd like to thank you all again for joining us for this episode of The Real Review. My name's Kevin. That guy over there, he's John. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Again, thanks for joining us for a real sports series. Play the games, watch the movies. We'll see you next time.
See ya!